All right, hi guys. Welcome back to week number 3 of the Chicane Club live streaming here. You join me as I'm driving good old AMG GT3 from Portimao in Portugal. Well, everyone calls it Portimao as a racetrack, but the technical name for the track is Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. Forgive my attempt at trying to pronounce Portuguese. And bom dia to, well, it's good morning. All right, I don't know any Portuguese, so I'm going to stop attempting to speak Portuguese now. But yeah, I'm racing in where Formula One has been the last 2 years in Portugal on its western coast at a new facility that was just recently added to iRacing for this season. This place is wild for anyone that's driven it so far. I don't know how it's under 3 miles. Garrett and I were talking about that today, that it feels like a 5-mile track with how much work it is to get around a lap, but it's somehow only 3 miles. But yeah, this place is super technical, really fast, really wide, a lot of elevation change, a lot of big commitment corners, and tough transitions. Unfortunately, it's not the Mercedes will not be its strongest here this week. It's just not the best characteristics for a racetrack for the Mercedes. It looks like the Porsche is going to be probably the fastest option this week, but we're committed to driving the Mercedes here, so I'm going to do my best to make up for that in tonight's race. So we all had what were they called, TJ? Those little pastries we just had a couple minutes ago from Portugal.
Pastéis de nata.
Yeah, they were
Delicious.
awesome. We were just celebrating the Portuguese race. I think this is the only Portuguese track on iRacing as far as I know so far. I know they haven't added Estoril yet, but that would make a good addition too. How are we looking, Garrett?
Everything's looking good so far. Very good so far.
Yeah. Nothing to really spot for right now. I think everyone bailed out of this test session. Oh, there is a...
Yeah, there's one GTP. Maybe he's about 8.5 seconds back. Doesn't seem he's getting any time, anywhere close anytime soon.
Yeah. So we did
Probably in the same boat as a lot of people trying to actually learn the track. Yeah.
So, fill you guys in on a little bit of the prep work we did. We did a practice race earlier today. I mean, we've done a lot of practice this last week getting ready for this. This track requires a bit of a different setup on the car to get the car to cooperate here. Just with all the compression, a lot of the transition stuff, this high-speed corner like I'm going through now, just getting the car to cooperate the way we wanted to. It took a lot of setup work. But we did a practice race earlier today where we actually had to fight through traffic and everything, and yeah, this is going to be a very action-packed race tonight, that I'll say. I think a lot of people are having a hard time perhaps figuring the track out, and in addition to that, just dealing with all the multi-class element in all this with prototype traffic and whatnot. Like, this prototype's going to find me in hopefully a good spot here.
About a second, dude.
Yeah, he's going to find me in a good spot here. Woo! Yeah, just there's not a lot of straightaways for the prototypes to get an easy pass on you, so like you have to leave opportunities like this that he's not going to take. Not sure what he's doing. Yeah, there was a lot of carnage that we had to work really hard to avoid in the practice race earlier today, so I'm hoping we can keep that up in tonight's race. I think simply surviving the start and all the multi-class action is going to get us into a top 5 finish. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. But I'd love to get back to a proper podium result like our first race at Suzuka. Yeah, like I was saying, this is not the Mercedes strong suit, unfortunately, at this track. Like I said, there's a lot of really high-speed commitment corners, a lot of high-speed downforce stuff like that final corner I just went through just there. and a lot of high-speed transition where we're trying to load the car from the left to the right or right to the left really very quickly. And unfortunately, it's not what the Mercedes is best at compared to the other cars in class. It looks like the Porsche, the Ferrari, and the Audi would perhaps be a better choice this week. But like I said, like I've said before, I'm always going to get my best results out of driving the same car from week to week rather than jumping around. Not saying I couldn't adapt, but I'd rather go with a known quantity and just fight to overcome the shortcomings of the car. So, I think we're about 35 minutes, 40 minutes out from our start of our official race session, so doing a bit of a race stint right now. I think we're going to do, Garrett, we can tee up a practice stop here in a couple laps.
Copy that.
We'll set it up for a full fuel load and then left side tires, like what we did last week at Sebring. It's talking about how we only need about 30 liters of fuel. Tonight's going to be 31 based on the math that we've done. 31 liters of fuel added to the car, which is actually really only like a quarter of the car's actual capacity. Believe it or not, this thing will hold 125 liters of fuel, which is quite nearly 30 gallons. So that's an enormous fuel tank compared to most street cars. Most four-door sedans have something like a 12 to 16 gallon tank. Well, this holds 30. We've decided that we're going to take left side tires. Not something you do in real life. Usually you're going to change all four or none of them. But that's what we're going to do tonight. We could consider taking just front tires or just rears, but that would really imbalance the car, especially the later stages of the race. And in my opinion, I think it would be better to have a car that's going to just preserve its balance through the entire length of the race. So that's our decision, and we're sticking to it. Now, it does not. We're not going to see any rain in the forecast tonight. This will be a dry race, so nothing to worry about with any of that. So we don't have to consider wet tires or a moving target on the weather conditions. Ooh, a little wide. Picked up the power a little too early there. Shame on me. Garrett, let me know when we're inside 30 minutes to the race session so we can move over to that lobby.
Sounds good. Will do.
I'm going to do one more lap, and then we're going to do our practice pit stop next lap, or next time by. Hope you guys have been enjoying these streams. As you may have noticed already this week, we have added a heart rate monitor. So you can in real time see what my heart rate is. Right now at about 109 beats per minute. Resting heart rate is in, last I checked, was in right around 70 beats per minute, which is pretty good for someone who's not a professional athlete. So yeah, you can see that I'm a little bit elevated. I'm not the equivalent of running a marathon or doing any sort of extreme workout. What was that, TJ?
More podiums, aka me. I was asking the question, what do you do to stay calm at race start? Because I know whenever I started my race, that was 130 beats per minute within the first 2 laps.
Yeah, pretty intense, huh? I don't know if I have a good answer for that, because having been on the timing stand at the start of some serious races, I'm sure if you check my heart rate then it would be pretty high also, even with me sitting down and not driving a race car. I don't know if I have a good answer to that, other than it just kind of, you get more calm and learn to relax a little bit. The other thing I would say from experience, and you can just know that your reflexes are going to take over pretty quickly. I'll continue that answer, but I'm going to do a practice stop right now. Got everything set, Garrett?
Everything's ready for you.
Okay, cool. It's always good to do one of these practice stops so I can know when to, how to approach the pit speed limit line. kind of get the cadence down, practice your stops in your box so you're not giving up any time.
Right here.
So when I worked on CP racing for the past couple of races, so the Dubai 24, Barcelona 24, and the 6 and 12-hour Estoril, my job was that guy's on green. In addition to calling strategy, I also was a lollipop guy. I stood on the left front of the car. He stands on the right front of the car. He almost looks like me too, minus the Hess suit. Okay.
We'd still need to change that.
Yeah. Looks like that GTP is right behind me. Don't want to get in his way. Yeah, we gotta change the driver suits. I'll get out of this prototype's way. Wouldn't do that in the race as easily, but don't mean to upset his stuff right now.
You got a slow car on
Oh,
the left.
and he looped it.
On the left.
Yeah, so TJ, to I guess finish answering your question, I try to take a couple deep breaths before the start of the race and try to just focus forward. You have no idea what to expect with how the race is going to unfold. So just kind of having some presence with what's going on and just focusing forward and knowing that your reflexes are going to take over is probably the best advice I have. I don't know if there's a better answer to that, but the more you do, the better, easier they become for you. I think my heart rate might get close to that 130 tonight also, especially if this race gets intense.
If it's anything like that you raced from earlier, I have to feel like it's probably maybe a bit higher.
Yeah, if it's anything like that, for sure. This is a dusk session right now.
Clear on the left.
Based on what we did in the race earlier today, I think this is a bit darker now than what we'll see in the race. What time is it, Garrett? Are we inside 30 to this lobby? If anyone is watching from CP Racing, I know I shared the YouTube link with you guys this afternoon. Please drop us a comment and say hi. I know most of you are in Germany and probably 5 hours of sleep right now, so maybe you'll see this tomorrow morning. But I miss you guys. I wish we could have been there at Mugello this past weekend. Congrats on the podium. You know, that's a mega effort to get that far. You guys make it look easy, but I know that it is not by a long shot, but you guys do an awesome job, so wish we could have been there, and I wish I could make it to Spa next month. Not sure it's going to happen, unfortunately, but we'll be with you there emotionally. But I do know that you guys all know this track very well, considering you won here 2 years ago. Well, I believe it was a 24 you guys did. That was invaluable for him, and then led you guys on to an overall win in a 24 at a super intense track. So I know you guys all love this place. Shane always said that this was I think the hottest race you guys had ever been to. You actually had a kiddie pool filled with ice water for the drivers to cool down in after their stints. So, a bit wide. This corner here has been so hard for me to figure out. I want to figure out a way to do it full throttle, but it just never quite sticks. Big issue I deal with there is that you get as you crest over top of that hill in turn 4 on the track map. I'll point it out again next lap. It's this, you go over the top of this crest and the car gets really light and the rear end wants to step out, so much so that the traction control lights up and pulls all of your throttle away from you. So you really have to feather it over top of that hill. But I think I've got it kind of figured out now. This one's tough because it's so blind. Feels good when you get it right though. How we doing back
Heads
there,
up,
guys?
the race session should be, or the practice session for the race should be open now.
Okay, cool. I want to get this one across the line and bank this lap time. I did a low 144 qualifying earlier, and probably my best lap here ever. I don't think that was in a qualifying trim with light fuel, so I don't know that we're going to be quite there.
New back, flat for you.
Pretty good on a race load, so I'm going to just come into the box this time, and then we'll switch over to the race lobby.
So Greg, we got Random Inge who's giving you some pointers here to stay on the line when the GTP goes by, to be predictable if you want to let him by. If he's moving to the center lane before the corner to overtake, lift early, fuel save. So I can't read that because the stuff, but doesn't ruin your exit.
Yeah, for sure. I try my best to do that every time. The prototypes are a bit unpredictable, so I try to give them a little bit of room so we don't get ourselves taken out, but that is exactly the goal with these guys. I don't think the prototypes always expect that we're going to buy in the braking zone, so we're not giving up any more time than we need to. I was being a bit courteous in the practice session right now, just to let him out of the way, but I will not be that kind in tonight's race. They want to get by me there in the faster car, so that is their responsibility. But I'm also not going to ruin my own race at the same time, so that is a very hard one to juggle back and forth. And as anyone who's watched an actual endurance race can tell, it goes wrong in real life too when the professionals are doing it, so let's try to be even better than those guys are. Alright, box this lap. But thank you for the advice. Not sure who that is, but thank you. Alright, I'm just going to pull over and stop here. Alright, let's move over to the race lobby. Only average heart rate 106. That will definitely be higher during the race. Alright. Oh, still registered to the other one. How's everyone doing tonight? You guys all doing good back there?
I'm doing fantastic back here.
Yeah.
Everything's running well.
Is Bo having a good time? Is he on camera at all? I know everyone's always asking about him.
I'm not sure. Where is Bo?
Bo is Daphne and I's little 11-pound bundle of joy.
Ah, he's cuddled up in the his towel over in the other chair.
He's going to be internet famous soon. And he won't even know it.
He's live
Oh,
on camera
there
now.
Yeah. Ugh.
So I got a question, Greg.
Yeah.
Whenever you're doing these races and you don't have Garrett being your amazing spotter, are you doing those fuel and tire changes before you actually get into the race session so that you don't have to fiddle with that while you're going into the pits? Or how would somebody who's racing solo handle that?
Yeah. I try to set when we go to I try to do all my fuel calculations ahead of time so I know, especially for the dry races, the math is pretty straightforward. You can figure out how much fuel you need to get to the end, or changing conditions where the fuel load is changing or the lap times are changing, so that your kind of end of race conditions are a moving target. But what iRacing has that's really nice if you're driving solo is an auto fuel feature that seems to be quite reliable. I trust my math before I trust what an unknown calculation that iRacing is doing. But if I was doing it myself, yeah, I would probably I'd be forced into trusting that auto fuel calculation to do it that way. And if usually if you have a faster pair, you would check that box. You pretty much know what you're going to do most of the time. But having someone like Garrett who can actually be my crew chief, make setup changes, make pit stop changes for me ahead of time, is obviously a huge value add. The big thing that Garrett helps with a lot also is managing all the traffic. I do have everything that you guys see on my center screen is exactly what I'm looking at. So I see the heart rate monitor, the live gap, the weather conditions, the track map with the marching ants down at the bottom. I see all that. It's just, especially at a track that's this busy, it is a lot to try and process and think about in real time while you're trying to drive and focus on your race. And obviously trying to pick up a mouse and keyboard mid-race is not really practical at all, so that's where having someone like Garrett is a huge value add. And yes, you may have heard me just say it, but in real racing, that image you see in the bottom left of my center screen with the track map and all the cars moving around, we call that the marching ants. I know that probably sounds silly, but every racing team I've ever been on, every race engineer, every strategist I've ever spoken to calls it that. It's kind of like the trade name for what that is. So if you're unsure, check the marching ants. I think I laughed for like 5 minutes the first time I ever heard that was what it was actually called. Gives you kind of marching around.
Depending on how lap 1 goes, we could call it lemmings. Stay tuned.
Yeah, right? Ooh, quiet. Ooh. Alright, so what just happened there is literally my frustration with iRacing's tire model. And there is my frustrations with iRacing's tire model that you've probably heard me allude to in the past. So, again, I'm not a professional race car driver. I am a professional race engineer and strategist and a driver coach, and I've been around race cars for a long time. Oh, that was because I was talking. That wasn't anyone's fault but mine. So what happened in that last corner on the previous lap, if you overheat a tire, or if you get, like, say you get a little bit loose, like here, I'll do it here a little bit on purpose, get a little bit loose and you light up the rear tires a little bit too much, it seems like iRacing models the tires very rapidly, like overheating and losing a lot of grip very quickly. In my experience, that does not happen quite like that in real life. All right, you get a little loose, yes, do your tires heat up? For sure. I don't know it's on a level that, like, the grip goes out the window for them immediately, and every driver I've ever spoken to complains of the exact same thing. So it happens quite a lot here where it's very easy to get a little bit of loose from power down or just overloading the rear in a couple places. And you have to be very careful that after, like, a big sideways moment, like usually happens right here, watch. Ooh, big sideways moment. You have to be careful that you're not then loading the rear tires again too heavily, or it'll just break loose and you'll over-rotate very quickly. I don't know why iRacing has it that way, but it's just kind of the nature of the beast. So I've learned to adapt and identify when it happens to just give the rear tires a little bit of a break for a corner or two to let them kind of come back down in surface temperature. But iRacing, if you're listening, I'd love to talk to you about that one and getting that one fixed. I'm sure you have a reason that it is the way that it is, but I've never seen it that way on a real car. So that's my 2 cents. On a fast one here. You'll see me from lap to lap throughout the race change a little bit of what I do in this corner here. This is the one where I was right here where I get a little loose there. I have to fight the traction control. Prototype's going to give me a break until the next corner. Looks like it's running the plaid FAF livery. It's kind of cool. My friend Dustin on the team would say PFAF. So FAF is running a McLaren in IMSA this year in GTD. When they've historically run a Porsche the last several years. I think they won the GTD championship a few years back when my friend Dustin, a coworker of mine at the time, and moved into being their lead systems engineer. And they won the Daytona 24 in very dramatic style in, I think that was 21 or 22. Forgive me for not remembering, but we've got a portrait of it, that dramatic final lap battle into the bus stop at Daytona. We've got a portrait on our wall. You can't see it quite in shot right now, but it's in our lounge area. Pretty cool.
So Greg, we got random engineer. I'm gonna assume that's what Eng stands for. It says that if you do a giant burnout on the pit launch in real life, the tires are still okay.
Say that one more time, TJ. Sorry.
If you do a giant burnout on the pit launch in real life, the tires are still okay. So let it rip in the pits.
Oh, I do it big time in here. You wouldn't want to do that with hot tires, just because it's such a driveline shock on really sticky tires. But if those tires are cold, yeah, you could do a big fat burnout, leaving pit stall. I actually have a funny story about that you guys have probably all heard me tell before in here. So back in 2018, I was the data engineer and kind of / strategist with P1 Motorsports, and we were running a Mercedes GT3 at Sebring for the 12-hour. Did pretty well that year. I think we finished on the lead lap, maybe one lap down. I don't remember. It was hard to keep up with the factory teams early in the season. Anyways, yeah, we were at Sebring running in the 12-hour, and our pit stall was right behind the factory Porsche GTLM team running the GTE car. Yeah, right behind them. And in IMSA, you always have to, you cannot use tire warmers, so you're always leaving your pit box with quote-unquote cold or ambient temperature tires. So everyone always leaves their pit stall with a big honking cool burnout. Looks really cool, looks really dramatic, sounds awesome. But for us, being right behind the 991.2 GTLM Porsche, if you've ever heard that RSR before, you know what I'm talking about. That is probably the loudest modern race car I have been around, short of like a Top Fuel dragster. Not only is it the volume, but it's the intensity and like pitch of the engine. So when they do a burnout, they hold it at red line, put it in first, and drop the clutch, and the thing revs at about, I don't know, 9,000 RPM for a burnout. And it was so loud for us that on our timing stand, we're all wearing headsets with basically an open mic through an intercom, so we're all talking to each other kind of in natural speaking voice, but kind of like we're all talking here in our club right now. So whenever the Porsches would come in and do their pit stops, we all had to mute our headsets because the sound from their engine would all feed back into our microphones and then blast out all of our ears. We got like one pit stop in and realized what was happening. It was like, okay, Porsches are in, everyone mute their intercom right now, or we're all gonna go deaf. But it was cool until we started suffering from hearing loss, so take care of your ears. Man, I sound like an old man saying that. But literally, take care of your ears. Oh, that was a pretty good one too. Almost into the 44s again. Ooh, a bit wide. Man, that one's tough. I have not nailed down exactly how to do that one yet.
Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in, Replica Racing.
What's up, Josiah? Ooh. Shout out to Josiah as always. he made the Chicane Club livery that we've been sporting for the last couple of weeks. You'll see it right above my center screen display, right on the stream. He does an awesome job with both iRacing and Assetto Corsa liveries. If you can think it, he will design it. So he's done a bunch of Assetto Corsa liveries for us to use in here locally, as well as this AMG GT3 that we race. And Josiah also does all of our in-sim photography, both in Assetto and iRacing. So even our thumbnail tonight, that was all replica racing. So thanks for everything you do, bud. And congrats on your new website that you launched this week too. Ooh, a bit wide.
Hey Greg, so yeah, Random Inge is saying, imagine at the pit exit, there's a turn immediately, guessing that they're overdoing it with the service temp on their model. What I meant is the big burnout at launch is like 20 times more wheel spin than the little bit you had on track, and it was okay.
Yeah, the way I look at that is that it's just because you're starting on cold tires that heating them up aggressively is just getting them closer to the normal range. I have noticed a couple times when I'm overzealous on my burnouts that sometimes I'll loop it coming out of pit lane. But I don't know, to me there's something funny going on, and so much of their data is encrypted, so you can't really look at car dynamic data. You can't see a plot of tire temperature, so I would love to see carcass temperature, actual surface temperature of the tire measured in real time, what we can do in other softwares that we cannot do in iRacing. I just feel like there's some funniness going on with it. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be told that much, but yeah, I find that doing a big burnout only helps. All right, how much time do we have until the lobby starts, guys?
About 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna box this lap and we'll do some qualifying stuff. Went down one gear too far.
You got it, by car on the right.
Got a Bucky's Porsche. That's a cool livery. You see that, Garrett?
I might get that one for the GT3R.
Yeah, right?
Oh, it's a good livery to sport.
Bucky's should have a race car. I don't know why they don't.
It's a good point. I'm surprised they don't.
They should have a NASCAR truck with a Bucky's scheme.
I would definitely embody the American spirit and Bucky's in that.
Yeah, there probably is one, and I just don't know about it. That's probably the actual answer.
Yeah, there has to be.
Yeah. Gotta have our Walmart-sized gas stations, because hashtag America.
All I'm saying is I went into Bucky's and it was pretty magical on a 4-day road trip from Florida to Wyoming.
Yeah.
It was relieving to go into something that large and just be like, let me load up on everything.
Yeah. What kind of sugar do I want to put in my mouth right now?
And exactly how cheap can I get it?
Yes.
Never have I ever, in 15, 20 years, other than at Bucky's, seen everything so cheap.
Yeah.
Including ices for $1.36. Insane.
I'm just impressed with their line of merchandise. They've managed to put a Bucky's logo on literally everything, and people will buy it.
Coffee mugs, ties, shirts, pins.
Lingerie.
literally everything.
Food. Yeah. They've got it figured out, I guess. I don't know how they can afford to have a gas station with 120 gas pumps. I mean, they've obviously done the math on it, and somewhere it makes sense, but like, holy cow. They don't have a parking lot, they just have a field of gas pumps. Anyways, not sure why we're talking about Buc-ee's, but I think I said I was going to box last lap and then got distracted.
That's the Buc-ee's effect.
Yeah, right?
Random Inch said that you could kind of guess the interior temperature based on the tire pressures you're at. If it doesn't tell you that coarsely. Sorry, I kind of messed that one up there with the dots and the pauses. But you can kind of guess the interior temperature based on the tire pressure.
Yeah, I would love to see like real-time surface temperature. It does show the, I believe, the core temperature. Oh, just barely made it there. I can see obviously the tire pressure and the core temperature, I assume in some sort of real-time thing. I just think it's like there's some sort of instantaneous overheating that resolves really quickly. That just feels like in the matter of like 5 seconds, it overheats to a point where it just gets really greasy. Again, maybe I'm wrong. It just seems a perception thing for me. So, all right, let's switch over to our qualifying trim. I know how I would measure that in real life with an array of sensors across the wheel, and I've literally done that before. What am I doing? But it's seemingly harder to do in here. I would love to get that data. So. All right, so while I'm on here, for anyone who's not been on iRacing before, this is what we call our setup menu, or technically called a garage. Excuse me. So it shows everything that we're able to adjust. So we can start with our starting tire pressures. There's some calculations for aerodynamics, which set of tires, dry or wet, we want to be on. Tonight's dry, so no decision to be made there. And then a lot of acronyms here that if you don't know what you're looking at can be super intimidating. Front ending roll bar, total toe in, whether we have the endurance lights fitted on the car. I think the car looks cool. We don't have to worry about the expense or the weight penalty from running with them here, so I always have them on. But we can also change things like basically the ride height, the spring stiffness on all four corners, all the damper settings, camber, which is the tilt of the top of the tire over top of the bottom. And then we can do all of that on all four corners independently. How much fuel we're going to put on, rear anti-roll bar settings, some rear differential settings, and wing angle. So a lot of things to take into consideration here. There's many classes, many hundreds of hours of classes you can take that explain how all of those things interact. We kind of talked about it in the past week, but it's
Okay, punch it.
the way I essentially try to do it is you take a known setup that you know is pretty good from a track that's hopefully something similar to what you've had in the past. Like this is, I think I started with a spa setup, I believe, that we took here because it was high downforce and high commitment. And you drive it for a good while, like 15, 20, 30 minutes. Really drive the car and find what are the shortcomings of the car. Where is it limited the most? Is it limited on the way into the corner, in the middle of the corner, on the way out? Is it the front end not hooking up with understeer, or is the rear getting loose with oversteer? Both tires dealing with. And you start reflecting on what conditions, what type of corners are those happening in, and you start making adjustments to the car based on that. We need to change the ride height of the car, which would affect the balance. We would need to make a damper change, which affects how the speed at which the chassis of the car moves around. Do we want to make an aerodynamic change?
Right side. Clear on the right.
We want to make an aerodynamic change that affects more of what we do at high speed and not at low speeds. It's really the long game of guess and check that at a really high level in racing, based around a track model, and they can go through and run thousands of iterations of setups. What's the Dragon Speed livery? They can run tens upon thousands of setups in a very short period of time. Ooh, Bucky's car is going to run us off at turn 1. And sort of find a more optimal setup they can at least start their actual race weekend on. I've talked to Jeff Brown. Hi, Jeff, if you're watching, great to have you here. About this a lot, where at a number of times he's worked through doing that, where you have a really, really good simulation model. So much so that it'll give you, if you know how to use it, you put in really good information, you understand how the model works, it'll give you a setup that you can start your race weekend on. And the number of times that they've taken that setup, put it on the car, and then they make a bunch of other adjustments, and then they ultimately arrive back at the setup that the simulation model gave them and told them to start on is their ultimate setup. It really is at a high level very capable of doing something that good. So that's where engineers can win the race long before it ever started. So it's a little bit different of interpretation of the word simulation than what we're doing tonight, though. I prefer the simulation that actually has the driver in the loop. That was a mistake on my part again. Old Miller livery that used to be on the, maybe sacrilege that's on a Porsche, or is that a BMW? I can't tell. Used to be on the old Porsche 962s, that livery. Ooh, a little sideways.
Car on the right. You have about 1 lap of fuel left.
Pushing the rear tires too much.
Don't forget to pit this lap for more fuel.
Oh, and there's our race lobby. Come on, front end, stick. That was off track.
You got a slow car on the
All right,
right.
we got to stop for our lobby now anyway.
Oh. On the right. That was your fastest lap of the session.
Oh, really? So something I noticed, I watched a little bit of the replays of these streams in weeks past. I've never actually seen myself filmed before while driving in here, like my face, like you guys are watching in real time now. I hope you're all enjoying all the faces that I make while I'm driving and I make mistakes all the time, because I never realized that I actually did them until I watched a replay of it. All right, moving over to our official race session here. So I'll be ranked against a whole field of other drivers that have an equivalent iRating, or basically kind of like a performance rating. So it's all skill matched drivers. So everyone I'll be racing against tonight is pretty close in approximation in performance to what I'll be racing against. So not necessarily the top class. I'm not the top. I'm not the top of the top of the top in iRacing, not by a long shot. I would never claim to be. I'm only a 2100 iRating, while there's plenty of guys out there who are in the 7, 8, 9, and 10,000 iRating range. Max Verstappen, for example, is in the very high 9s with the little time that he has to race, literally around his F1 calendar. I've seen a lot of people have posted on Instagram or social media lately that he's a professional sim racer who races in Formula One as a side hobby, which, considering how well he does in F1 and how little effort he has to seemingly how little effort he has to put in, that's kind of what it actually seems like. He seems more challenged in sim racing than in, winning the World Drivers' Championship in Formula One. So, but I am nowhere near his level of performance. I am good. I'm in the top. I've looked it up. If you Google iRating distribution, you can get like a bell curve that's the distribution of everyone's iRating on iRacing, and you can actually type in what your iRating is. I checked it earlier today that with the 2100 that I have, I'm in the top 8 percentile. But I always preface it with this, that like 90% of the people who are racing and iRacing all the time are those top 10% of people. I think most of the people who are in the bottom of that bell curve are not here all the time. So yes, I'm in the top 8% overall, but the people who frequent this are in that top 8%. So yeah, I'm good, but I'm not life-changing Max Verstappen good. So, all right, let's look at our, I always load into our practice sessions here just to see what pit stall I have. It looks like I'm pretty close to the far end of pit lane, so that'll be good to know here. It did what was my qualifying time earlier, Garrett? A 44 low?
I believe it was a low 44, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, someone's going to do a 42.
I saw a 42 in the practice session.
Yeah.
A high 42 in GT3.
Yeah. We are in, I think, the top split, boys. I just looked at the top of the field, and there's guys in the 5.8 thousand right now. So, yeah, this is going to be a very fast field of drivers tonight. So, all right, I'm going to focus forward here on qualifying. Heat up those rear.
Don't like the way you're driving.
Oh, really?
Delete it until you reset the car and try again.
I guess they don't like you doing burnouts out of pit lane.
Shout outs from Replica Racing on your heart rate monitor.
Thank you, Josiah. So technically my heart rate monitor is all being done through my Apple Watch, which is on this wrist right now. You can't see it. Very cool data point to have. It actually is measuring something on the driver itself, not just what they're doing with their hands and feet. I think we're gonna, in setting it up this week, I think we've discovered that we're gonna use it a lot more as another data tool with all of the driving that we do here all the time with all of our members. All right, so I'm on my outlap here in qualifying. Always want to try to get as much heat in the tires as we possibly can on this outlap here. So I try to do some extra braking in a couple locations to put additional heat in the tires. Perhaps a bit more aggressively than you would in real life, but knowing that I'm the only one out here and we can't actually damage the tires like we'd be concerned about in real life, I'm not too worried about doing it aggressively in here. So, all right, let's do this thing. Coming out of the final corner. One of the things I discovered earlier today that we can get away with here, TJ, this is a top trick right here. If you blow track limits on the exit here, it does not penalize you. So I can go really wide off here, carry a lot of speed, and it will not disqualify my fast lap. So that's free lap time. So there's your top trick from Team Chicane Club tonight.
Noted. Taking that to the bank. Thank you.
Yeah, right? So I run essentially the same setup that I run in the race, but with much less fuel. And tonight, I feel a little bit more comfortable running a slightly higher or less invasive traction control and ABS setting, and a little bit more rear brake bias, which makes the car a little bit more loose or free on the entry to corners. Harder to manage in a long distance, like over a race run, but in qualifying mode when you're in maximum attack, like I am right now, it can make the difference. So. Alright, so we don't want to run the track limits now or it will invalidate the lap, but I couldn't do it on the setup lap. There we go. That should be a pretty good lap to bank, and I'll try to go a little bit faster here on my second one. 44.6, I'll take it. Not breaking any records, but... a little too deep there, but still up. Maybe didn't need second gear, but didn't cost us anything. A little bit wide, but I'm gonna make it work. Ah, that was a mistake. Come on. Talk about consistency.
Chicken flag, chicken flag.
24,000.
Not to crush your soul, but yeah,
no.
the top qualifying top GT3 qualifier was a 141.966.
Okay, so
How, I have absolutely no idea.
yeah, that's really impressive.
Yeah, it's disgusting is what it is.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I would love to see what that lap looks like. There's no way that's in the Mercedes. It's also by a 5.8 thousand iRating, so they've got more time to put into this than I do right now. So I'll take that. Still 7th out of I don't know how many. Here, let's see if we have time to see how many GT3 entries there are. Oh, 8? No. No, this is out of order. Oh, so maybe, I don't know what it says, 12 maybe? GT3 entries? Kind of an equal split with P2s and GTPs too, so. About to get really busy. Really, really need to just survive the start of this. I guarantee to all of you that the start of this race is going to be chaotic. And I just want to survive more than anything. Garrett, would you mind turning the air conditioning down really quick too?
Of course.
Getting warm in here already. All right, I got my race set up, loaded. Based on the math we did earlier today, it'd be 31 laps. I'm sorry, 31 liters that we're going to add for a race distance of 27 laps.
One to go. Next time by. Line up on the left side.
We got a question from here in the lobby, which is, what's your strategy for the bottleneck when everybody bottles up?
Right now. Tight field today. Look for opportunity.
Don't be the cork in the bottleneck. Garrett, you wanted to set us up with just left side tires only and 31 liters?
Setting up our strategy now.
Yeah. So strategy is give it some room at turn 1 at bottleneck. Everyone's going to split here. The way it works at the start, the GT3s hang back a bit from the prototype field. So in iRacing, the way this works, not how it works in real life, when the prototypes take the green and take off, we also simultaneously will start our race, and we will just happen to be in the middle of the final corner. Not a great place to start a race, but that's just how iRacing starts theirs, rather than the GT3s having their own separate race start. It looks like the Hoffor Racing AMG behind me. That's kind of cool. Yeah, so as we approach turn 1, our fields, we're already at full tilt. We're probably going to go 3-4 cars wide into turn 1. I would very much like to be on the inside if I have any control over it. Unfortunately, I'm starting on the outside line, but I'm going to hope that I can find a way to get the inside and then just take it very conservatively, not be on top of the cars ahead. And then honestly, there's only so much I can do. Hopefully the field doesn't plow into me from behind. So I'm going to take it conservatively. I just want to survive. If I lose a position or two, I'm okay with that, so long as we get through without getting collected. And then once we kind of go more to single file, then we can settle into wherever we end up and go there. So, and said many, many, many times, and I've probably even said it here, but to finish first you must finish. So we need to not lose it in the first corner of the race. All right. You can't. The other phrase that gets said a million times in racing is you cannot win the race in the first corner of the first lap, but you can lose it. So let's not lose it that way.
You got it. PMA. Everybody's rooting for you in the chat.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the support. This is going to be a good one. Let's go.
Catch up 7 car, catch up 32 car, catch up 17 car, catch up 25 car, catch up 26 car.
All right. So compared to my qualifying setup, I like to run the traction control and ABS at position 10, which is one set lower than where we started in qualifying. And then towards the end of the race, when the tires really start getting tired, no pun intended, I'll go down to position 9. And on the brake bias, I run a couple percentage or half a percentage point higher than I did in qualifying, so the car is a bit more stable on the way into corners. It's not ultimately faster, but it's a little bit more conservative and a little easier for me to manage long term. And it's a little bit better for tire wear, especially on the rears. So, all right. Considering everyone's iRating here, I think the front of the GT3 field is going to run away from us, and I'm not going to have much to say about that. So let's just manage where we are here.
Catch up 22 car.
I found that from doing this a bunch of times, it's a little bit safer to, not safer, but it makes more sense to do your tire warming later in the lap. And then doing it right off of the grid doesn't really net us anything other than taking some grip away on the tires that we need later in the race. Cool Penske livery on the Porsche next to me. Taken from the 963 prototype. All right. All right, you guys ready for this? Start heat soaking the brakes a little bit, get some temperature in the tires, and then we'll take it easy into turn 1 on the first one. Wow, prototypes are about to take off on their race start, so we may be in the middle of this next corner. We go green, so this might be messy, but we'll see here. Oh boy, here we go. All right, let's go,
About to
everyone.
go green, stay focused. The pace car is in.
I think we're going already.
Catch up, 22.
That's
car.
it. We're going.
Green, green, green.
Still cold tires. Come on, front end. All right, so I guess we're gonna go 3 wide.
We're in the middle, 3 wide. Clear on the left, 2 wide.
All right.
Clear on the right.
All right. We survived. Keep it up. I think there's a GTP that's already missing a whole lot of bodywork. They look a bit naked without all their bodywork, don't they? Oh boy, here we go.
Look at the Peugeot now.
Yeah, right? Missing its rear wing. Bet that car is fast in a straight line. Hoping that GTP doesn't cause any problems missing all its bodywork like that until he can get back to pit lane. Fortunately, the guys behind me look like they're racing each other, so we'll be safe for a little bit here. I'm going to focus forward. Okay. All right. Survived lap 1. Only 26 to go. Tire's still a little cold, but almost there. So it's nice in the early stages of this race, at least for the first time now, 2 or 3 laps, we don't have any prototype traffic to worry about. So we can at least just focus on our own race. But from then on, once the prototypes catch us, they spread out and they just are just constantly trying to get by us the whole time. And that makes managing our race definitely more difficult, but adds a cool element to things. I find that I tend to make up a little bit of time with competitors from better traffic management. So much as it's nerve-wracking, it can cause some stress. I tend to do a little bit better than those around me, but man, these guys up front are crazy fast. I have nothing for them right now. I mean, I've got a couple tenths here and there for sure, but I don't know where they're finding over a second a lap on me. It is telling that none of the cars in front of me were driving the Mercedes, so I am the leading Mercedes, so I'm the best at something, but obviously not the best at picking a car. Porsche's all over me right now. He's playing fair, so I'll give him room if he takes a stab. Hey Gary,
What was that?
where is the closest GTP?
The closest GTP. I actually can't even see him on the leaderboard right now. It won't let me scroll down far enough. It appears the nearest ones are going to be. I can actually tell.
Like, where are they on track?
Oh, it won't let me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me see. I'm sorry about that. 1 second.
All right, it's all right.
2.524.
All good. Oh, bit wide. I don't know how that Porsche is that much faster in the mid-corner than I am. It's a Porsche. It's a Porsche is the only answer that I have.
Hey, Greg. Pocono Sports Car said very cool.
Hey, Jim, how are you, bud? Look, I'm finally driving a race car. It's not a Ferrari, though. Not yet. Hope you guys have been well. Gotta catch up with you soon when you're back in Florida next.
He said, "What, Greg? No Ferrari?"
I know, right? The 296 GT3 is mad fast in here. I've driven it a couple times. But when it comes to GT3 stuff, believe it or not, the Mercedes has a very special place in my heart. But who knows? Maybe next season we'll do something under Ferrari. I don't know, something about the 296 having a twin turbo V6, it sounds like a vacuum cleaner. Doesn't help the Ferrari situation at all. This thing's got a big bad V8, so. So, yeah, so Pocono Sports Car was the first shop I ever got the opportunity to work at. Thank you very much to Jim for that. He was my, Jim was my younger brother's Cub Scout leader. And I went through Scouts and everything. Anyways, Jim was the Cub Scout leader. Worked at, correct me if I'm wrong here on any of this, Jim, but you had worked at FNA, Ferrari North America, for about 10 years, from the 80s to the 90s. Worked on Challenge, Ferrari Challenge teams. Worked at dealerships. And then you opened Pocono Sports Car, which happened to be just inside 2 miles from where I grew up in Pennsylvania. So at 18, I started detailing cars over the summer, went in and saw Jim's new shop. Had an F40 in there, which totally blew my mind at 18 years old. And I kind of semi-sarcastic, ooh, prototype coming through.
Clear.
It's just get two more repeat prototypes coming in. About a second out.
Semi-sarcastically asked Jim if I could detail the F40, and his answer was actually yes, which 18-year-old Greg did not believe. So that was really cool. So the next day I came in and detailed an F40, possibly the coolest car in the world to me at the time, and actually still frankly is. So I started working at Jim's on weekends, summers, came down to Cavallino that year, which is conveniently only really close to where we are now, and I've been to it a number of times since, but all thanks to my opportunity to work with Jim back at Pocono Sports Car. So I actually learned to work on cars on Ferraris, which is the most prototype. Sorry there.
Still there.
Yeah, you can interrupt me if I'm talking
Clear on the
to
left.
let them know that I'm coming. That's my fault. But yeah, I ironically learned how to work on cars
3, 2.
on Ferraris and have the scars to tell the tale. So, for anyone that knows me, Ferraris definitely have a very special place in my heart. Been very hard to be a Ferrari F1 fan the last number of years. That part definitely is not fun.
Group of fast
But
cars
hey, at least Ferrari got a 1-2 last weekend in Australia, thanks to Max's car braking.
Heads up, you get 2 GTPs, about a second out.
Okay.
Left side. Keep to the right.
Come on, come through the
Clear on
braking
the
zone.
Heads up, you got a P2, about a second out.
Is that the whole P2 field coming through now? I think.
Faster traffic
Yeah,
approaching.
it looks like only 2 of them at the time being, actually 3.
Okay. We can go around the outside. Oh, Porsche's gonna get a run on me. I'm going to the inside. Cost me, but I can make it stick here. Woo!
Heads up, you got 2 more P2s coming.
Cars approaching.
1 and 4 seconds out, respectively.
Okay.
Car on your left. Clear. Clear. Right side. Still there. Clear on the right.
Heads up, you got another P2, about a second out.
Copy.
Another one 3.5 out from him.
Faster car
Copy.
coming up quick.
Oh, on the outside. Don't love that. Woo!
Clear.
Compromise my run in on the way in a little bit, but it's okay.
Max says he's turning in and is supporting you.
Who's that?
Max.
Oh, Max. I assume that's Max from Germany. Thanks for watching, Max. And congrats again on the win from
Right side.
Mugello. Or podium, rather.
Clear.
Garrett, would you mind turning up the fans in here a little bit on speed?
Yep, of course. Heads up, also, you got 4 seconds out to the nearest P2 traffic, 2 cars.
Copy.
Faster traffic approaching.
GTP traffic 1 second behind.
Copy. Thank you.
Car on your left. Clear.
Heads up, it was actually Max Schweed.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Max from Germany. Hey, Max, how are you, bud?
Faster car coming up quick. Right side.
gonna say, it's like
Clear.
4:30 in the morning in Germany on a weeknight in Germany, so. Yeah, I can see that the sun's getting lower in the sky now. Gonna be bright coming out of this final corner.
Heads up, you got P2 traffic about 2.5 seconds out.
Copy. Alright, building a little bit of a gap from this car behind. Trying to focus a little bit more.
Faster car coming up quick. Right side. Clear.
So as you guys heard me ask a couple minutes ago to Garrett, it's getting warm in here, so I had him turn up the fans. We have two fans pointed at me that you can't see either of them from the stream right now, but they're up and down. But it's we intentionally designed it so that drivers wouldn't be able to adjust that themselves. Most of what we do here is pro coaching stuff, so I don't want to give too much adjustment to the people sitting here. Want them to focus on what they're doing, and that's what Garrett and I are here to take care of. So we have the controller behind the right side TV, out of sight.
Faster car coming up quick. Car on your left. Clear.
Compromised corner that costs a lot of time there. It's all good. All right, well, this race feels a little bit less chaotic than the one we did earlier today, fortunately, but maybe not as interesting to watch. But we're only 19 minutes in so far, so. Looks like we can take fuel anytime we want to here, Garrett, just so you know. We now have enough room in our fuel tank to take the load that we need. And we're going to time this pit stop so that it's right before the GTP field catches us.
Heads up, the lead GTP car is about 5 seconds out.
Yeah, so that's going to be this lap then. I just saw that. All right, we're going to box this lap then, so that most of the prototype traffic can get through, get past us while we're in pit lane, so less risk of anything going wrong and less cost of track time. All right, so box.
Faster traffic approaching.
Not sure why everyone else doesn't do the same thing, but I mean, we can go another lap longer.
The pit box
Field
in
is spread out
10,
so much, but I might as well let most of the traffic go through.
5, 3, 2, 1. Right here.
Okay, I'm gonna go as soon as we can here.
Well done. Get going.
The left side tires only, and enough fuel to get us to the end. What am I coming out into here?
You are all clear to rejoin
Okay.
track. Heads up, you do have P2 traffic back about 5 seconds though.
Okay, cool, thank you. They'll have to baby these outside cold tires. So we got to be a little bit more careful on right-hand corners, left-handed. I can push a little bit more on.
The leader consider 43.354.
Here comes the P2s.
Right side. Clear on the right.
There's a Ferrari in front of me. In real life, that Ferrari is so fast that it's really hard to compete with. At least everywhere I've been, and it looks really cool. Doesn't sound very impressive, but unfortunately, it ain't really Ferrari's fault. Emission standards are forcing car companies to make their street cars with more efficient, smaller displacement turbo engines. Don't sound good, and then that trickles down to what gets put into the race cars also. So I'm sure Ferrari is not happy about having a car that sounds the way that it does, but it's just kind of a consequence of where the world is going.
That's that
With
P2 traffic going on, you know?
Yep.
Another one, 3 seconds behind.
Clear on the right.
kind of a consequence of where the world is going with emissions and EPA standards.
Car
So,
behind you, pity.
oh man, is the car fast? Whoa, okay.
Car on your left. Clear on the left.
He must have damage or something. I don't know why he's that
Faster
slow.
traffic approaching. Car on your left. Left side. Clear.
This is awfully close. So I pit before most of the field in front of me did, where it was, as everyone takes their pit stops here.
Right side. Clear on the right. The car behind you, pity. Left side. Clear on the left.
Looks like we're at about the midpoint or so on race distance. Fortunately, that's cool. It's a Toyota LMP1 livery on that P2 car. Well, unfortunately, this for you guys, this is not as dramatic of a race as the one we ran earlier today. But I will take it. The best races are the most exciting, or the best wins are not always exciting ones. They're sometimes plain.
The car in front is pitting.
Eyes up, about 3.5 seconds to the nearest P2 car.
Okay. So, TJ, what have you been racing lately on here? I know you said you were doing some rain stuff and maybe some GT3, trying some stuff out. What have you been driving?
Ooh, yeah, so I've been actually doing and sticking to nothing but the Porsche Cup. So last night, while baby Jade was getting her shower, Dad clocked in 10 laps at Road Atlanta, full course.
Nice.
I don't know if this is good or bad, but given the Porsche Cup setup, I was down to the 127s, if I'm going off memory.
Okay.
And yeah, last races were at Brands Hatch, but the Indy circuit, so it was only 42-second laps. I'm sorry, 40.
Repetitive, yeah.
Yeah, 47-second laps, something like that. And I qualified 5th, spun out second lap,
Went all the way down to 19th, watched the whole entire pack go by, but then I finished 9th. So
Nice.
got to
Good.
stick with it.
Yeah, nice recovery. Is that the fixed series?
Yeah, I only do the fixed, and that's why actually you see so many questions for the people that are watching, the viewers, why you see so many questions come about how to do setups and tweaking those things, because although I slightly understand what they do, I have nowhere near the knowledge that you do, so I'd like to pick your brain on it.
Heads up, you got
Yeah.
2 seconds to the nearest GTP car, about 5 to the nearest P2.
Copy.
Faster traffic approaching.
Yeah, I think we'd love to do a produced video at some point, maybe showing you guys a little bit of what all those adjustments. No, prototype. Why? All right, I think we're safe. Yeah, I don't think I lost a position or anything. Prototype's got to give space.
The car behind is closing on you. The gap is 9.
I cannot maneuver as fast as he does. Car leak damage? I think it feels fine. Felt like a light hit.
Everything looks fine.
Okay. All right, focus forward. Yeah, maybe we'll do a video for you guys where we kind of get like an exposed skeleton of a race car models. We can talk through what all the adjustments do and kind of how they affect the car's balance and behavior. What
The car coming up quick.
I can say about everything GT3 performance level and above is that the aerodynamic behavior of the car and its performance
Car on your left.
with
Clear.
its front splitter, its underfloor, the body of the car, the rear wing, and the diffuser. Most of what the setup decisions we're doing, not all, but a lot of them, are much more about just controlling what the car does aerodynamically. If you think about it like a,
Stay on the left.
if you think about the floor of the car like a piece of plywood, kind of flying carpet its way around the racetrack, the way it moves around, we're always trying to control kind of the height
Right side.
and the
Clear on
movement
the
of that
right.
piece of plywood. Generally speaking, the closer the floor of the car, or our piece of plywood, is to the ground, the more downforce it makes. The more downforce we make, the more grip we have. The more grip we have, the faster we can go in the corners. So, especially at a prototype level, more than anything, usually the discussions are about platform control, which is just keeping the floor of the car kind of nice and parallel and perfectly, not perfectly parallel, but you're always making a compromise with the setup of the car. GT3 car is kind of an even mix of aerodynamic and what we call mechanical grip or tire or grip that comes from purely just the tires and the weight of the car on its own, where aerodynamic is from the downforce the car is generating from the wind flowing over the body of
The leader's bidding now.
the car and the floor underneath. Believe it or not, we all see Formula One cars or any sort of race car with these big front splitters, front wings, rear wings. Believe it or not, most of the downforce on all race cars comes from underneath the car. Rather than the car getting pushed down, it's much more a case of the floor of the car being sucked to the ground like a vacuum.
Coming up quick.
Heads
By
up,
creating
2
a low
seconds to the
pressure.
nearest GTP car.
We create a low pressure zone underneath the car that sucks it to the ground. The wing and the splitter and all that stuff does help. It makes a huge difference, and they're obviously visible and adjustable, so they are tuning elements that we have. But generally speaking, the bottom of the car makes
Clear.
a larger portion of our downforce than any of the exposed elements that we're used to looking at.
Faster car coming up quick.
1 second out, you have a GTP car approaching fast.
Yep. Around the outside here.
Still there. Hold your line. Clear.
The other thing that makes playing with the aerodynamics of a car one of many things that makes aerodynamics dynamic, as the name would imply, is the speed of the car has a huge effect on how much downforce we're making. I aerodynamic downforce and drag or lift. Usually when you talk about aerodynamic effects on a car or any sort of physical body at all, we always measured lift, just because this discussion on aerodynamic first came from airplanes. When we weren't looking at pushing stuff down, we were more concerned with pushing stuff up into the air.
It's up 1.5 seconds to the nearest GTP car.
Got it, thank you. The original idea for putting wings on race cars just came from someone looking at an airplane wing and going, if we took that wing off that airplane and put it on a race car upside down, it would push into the ground pretty hard and make more grip. And that revelation was made in the late 60s in Formula One. But yeah, what I was saying is that downforce, generally speaking, is proportional. So obviously, anything above whatever you want to call it, 100 miles an hour, is pretty considerably affected by aerodynamics, and anything below a certain level or regime is much more driven by mechanical grip on the car and not aerodynamics.
Yeah, 1 second to the nearest P2 car, then 6 seconds to some P2 traffic, 2 cars.
Got it. All right, how we doing? We got 12 minutes left. Looks like about eight race laps. We've got 9 laps worth of fuel. So I think we'll have 1 extra lap of fuel as a cushion, which does not hurt if things change.
Faster traffic approaching.
I'm trying to do my best with managing the rear tires right now. They're not too bad, but I'm going to try to continue managing that before they get worse here. I'm going to go 1 step down on my traction control so that it helps me a little bit more.
Faster traffic approaching.
Heads up, you have 2 GTPs and P2 cutting around you now.
Copy.
We're closing in fast with GTPs.
Copy. Ooh.
Make it 3 GTPs.
Clear.
Copy.
Right side. Clear. Left side. Clear.
1 second to the nearest P2.
Copy. I'd imagine that the GTP field is fighting through the P2 field now. What it looks like is going on.
Clear.
How close is the next GT3 car in class?
11 seconds back.
How about forward?
Forwards is about 7 seconds out.
Alright, so...
It's going well. Keep at it.
No, 8th place may not sound very impressive, but considering the field of drivers I'm racing against, I will take this for sure.
Hey Chris, the gas for position to the front is about 5.5 seconds, and behind is about 11 seconds.
Copy. A little wide there. Overcooked the entry a little bit.
Looks like the front of the P2 field is about 20 seconds out from you.
Okay. So they're going to catch me in probably 2 laps or so. Yeah. Looks like the P2 field is running like low 30s, and then the GTP field is running high 29s for pace. The P2 field is catching us at about 10 seconds a lap, and The GTPs at about 13 seconds a lap. Love the questions tonight. You guys have been great.
Yeah, we got Chris chiming in and asking for gaps for position, so you guys are right on cue without even knowing. And yeah, we got about 6 laps to go, so thanks, Chris, for chiming in.
Cool. Curious what the actual fuel consumption rate was like at Portimao in real life. Curious if the number matches up. We're burning about exactly 3 liters a lap right now. Which, back of my hand, seems like a fairly high rate of consumption for the distance for this track, but with the number of corners and big braking and acceleration zones, it kind of, I don't know, seems like it makes sense. I haven't checked the miles per gallon, but it's usually in a race car like this, we're somewhere around 2 miles per gallon. So, yeah, burning a lot of fuel, if not higher than that. Probably 1.5 to 2 miles per gallon. But we're also at full speed, maxing out to red line 550 horsepower every single time, so kind of fits the bill.
Heads up, you got about 4 seconds to the nearest P2 behind you. He is the class leader, and he's approaching rapidly.
Cool. If anyone just noticed that, kind of a cool graphics thing that iRacing just did. It looks like the interior of the car just lit up about 10 seconds ago. What that actually is, that's very real to form, is the cockpit interior lighting just switched on automatically, which in this car is a black light. You guys can't see it on me right now, but I can see it over my right shoulder, an actual black light. So if we actually did a full night race like we did at Sebring last week, everything would kind of have like a black light glow to it. That's really cool. Most race cars at nighttime, their cockpits have black light in them so that it's really easy for the drivers to, it's not too bright that they can't see what they're looking at on their gauges and their dashboard and looking forward, but everything is still illuminated. And usually there's some high-vis decals and whatnot and everything, so the drivers can still find all their button switches, levers, knobs that they need to in the car.
Heads up, you got about 4.5 seconds to the nearest P2.
Cool. I know from talking to Shane from all the 24-hour races that he's done, he found out the hard way one year, I think it was at the Nürburgring, that he was doing a night stint for the 24, I believe, and he had a brand new pair of perfectly white gloves, and he got in the car, and they were so bright that, like, literally with the black light glow, they were like glowing purple as he drove. And they were so bright with the black light that it was literally distracting to him. So his lesson was to never wear white gloves in a night race ever again. I know that probably sounds super nitpicky, but managing eye strain and being able to see everything you need to is really important for a driver. Ergonomics, as much as it's not meant to be a comfortable experience for a driver comfort and ease of operating the car is actually really important for their performance, especially in an endurance format. That's why modern race cars generally, not every, but a lot of them have air conditioning. Seat position is really important. A lot of work gets done by the manufacturers to design the dashboard in front of you, the design for that to be really intuitive and understandable.
Yeah, Chris chimed in and let you know about 3.15 liters per lap with 38 millimeter restrictors and a 147 on Hancooks.
Okay, so we're just a little ahead of that on, I think these are Pirellis, technically these are modeled on, but I know which Chris we're talking to now. Hi, Chris. I see you guys had a slightly higher consumption rate than we did.
Also, Paul is, sorry, the next GTP, I don't know what's the name. The next GTP is about a second out, and then behind him there is another P2 about 5 seconds out.
Oh, that was close. Okay. Yeah, to Hancock, you guys doing 47s. I'm averaging, my last one was a 46. And right around, I'm only seeing resolution to the 1 decimal place right now, so it's something like 3.0 liters per lap right now.
A group of faster cars approaching. Car on your left. Clear on the left. Left side. Clear on the left.
Heads up, you got 2 P2s. One's got a second out, the other's 2 seconds out.
Copy. Oh, this is exhausting.
Car right.
There's a couple minutes left. What are the gaps to the cars ahead and behind? Garrett?
Faster
In
traffic
class.
approaching. Car on your left.
Ahead is about 7 seconds, behind is 12.
Alright, kind of comfortable where we are.
Chris Long said you should be coming back to the white flag.
Cool.
Left side. Clear on the left.
Whoa, that was close.
Car on your left. Keep to the right. Clear.
Not sure which one of these prototypes knocked me out before. I think it might have been that black and gold Cadillac. I think. No white flag, at least one more. Looks like the leader overall is... I can't see right now. So Chris, you'll appreciate this. We're not actively using it right now. We felt that the strategy is a bit one-dimensional, and we frankly are out of TV screens to use here for it. But we have a license of H&H timing that we use here that communicates directly with iRacing. So we can build a fully, just as you would on a real race weekend, we can build a fully custom layout, all our overlays, marching ants, configure it however we want to. It interworks real-time in iRacing, really quite straightforward. We're definitely going to use it in our longer endurance races that we will name here at the Chicane Club.
Heads up, you got P2 traffic, 4 and 7 seconds respectively.
Copy that. I would imagine we're coming to the white flag now. Or I'm going to have to do some fuel saving.
2 laps of fuel left. White flag.
Okay, there we go. Alright, no need to fuel save. I see the next closest car, but he's too far out to be able to do anything about it, unfortunately.
Heads up, you got a P2 car approaching very rapidly now. Should be at the past here, and then you got another one 3.5 seconds behind.
Okay. Getting my low fuel warning. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. Chris, you'd probably appreciate that. Low fuel warning comes on with about 2 laps of fuel to go, which is exactly how Michael has it set up on the CP Racing AMG.
Faster traffic approaching.
Trying to suggest to that prototype go to the left, but he didn't take the bait. All right, so blew the last one. I'm definitely fatigued right now. This is the hardest race I've had to do in a long time. Just so physical, back and forth. I know I sound like I was complaining that I'm working out too hard playing video games here, but this is definitely physical, especially with the motion.
You have about 1 lap of fuel left.
hydraulic pedal, coming to the checker. Woo! Alright, not terribly dramatic, but P8 finish, which, considering everything and the strength of fields here, I will certainly take.
That's a P8 finish in the top split.
I will take that. That was how much of a boost to my iRating? I think it was almost kind of a net. Oh, and it wasn't dramatic, which is cool for me, but not exciting for you guys, that there was not a lot of chaos on that one. Let's go back and look at the start of this thing.
Congratulations.
I missed the fuel reading when it said, but I said 1.6. Kind of ambiguous with the prototype field taking it on the front straightaway, and then we're taking it coming out of the final corner. Not ideal. Our tires are still cold, so I was just trying to manage here. Yeah, we went fully 3 wide here. It was pretty wild, but I think I got the other 2 to chicken out. I think they were playing the same game I was, surviving here. There's a pro. Yeah, this all panned out on everything. iRating down precisely 1 point, so I'm an even 2150 now. That was the top split in a strength of field of 3138. So definitely batting up that time. So again, the strength of field is the average iRating of everyone participating in the race. We all have our own iRating on a scale from 0 to 10,000. Mine was about a 2151 when we started, and I ended at exactly where I guess I should have, with a 2150. So precisely average, which I realize is not terribly exciting, but I guess I know exactly where I am with this car. And due to the safety rating, the incident points where we had with the contact, I assume only from that prototype is the only time we made contact. It was a really small hit to my safety rating down to a 3.38, which is still very healthy territory. So yeah, let's take a look at this. We can split it down to GT3 class, which is called IMSA 23 here. Again, only 8th out of 12 cars, but in the top split. So the top finishing cars were 5,900 iRating, 54, 43, 31. And I finished, the car ahead was also a 21, car behind was a 21, and the cars behind me were a little bit less. So yeah, kind of results were determined by the iRating. We had some competitors, looks like one in UK, way up past, hooked up with the cell extension network in here so that we all actually have cell signal in the building. Really cool. Decipher Tech is awesome with everything that they do. So if you ever have any questions about them or want some support for your home or office, hit us up and we'll get you connected. Big shout out to Southwake, our business partner in all of this. Again, repping my sawbelt, seatbelts, seat, and then the gloves all night. So I'm not fighting to have any grip on the wheel issues. Big shout out to VBox Motorsport with our Race Logic lap timer over here. So I see live split times. We capture all of our video from the center screen, and then all of our data, and then we're able to analyze that in VBox's circuit tools, just like we would with the real car. So that's a big help for us. If you guys ever need any VBox products for a real car or from your simulator, please hit us up. We'd be glad to get you hooked up with that stuff. Rocky's Ultimate Garage, big help all the time. Yeah, big help. And Captain's Chair Coaching. I think that's all of our partners in here. If you guys are ever interested in having your own branding or logo or partnering with us in any way whatsoever, shoot us an email over at info@thechicane.club. Yeah, this was fun. Another good one. Next week is Imola, very famous Italian track, northern Italy. I believe it's still technically owned by Ferrari. I have not been there myself. It is very, very high on my bucket list. Anyone who knows the history of Formula One knows that perhaps the most famous racing driver, in my opinion, the most prominent racing driver of all time, Ayrton Senna, unfortunately passed away there back in 1994, if I remember correctly. Really long, sad story to that one. We actually, and we also lost Roland Ratzenberger the day before. So 2 major deaths in F1, same weekend from that track. But the track itself, amazing. I think it's going to suit the Mercedes really well. It's got a lot of low speed stuff. and then long straightaways on the run out, which are going to really suit the Mercedes. I think it's going to be a really good race. Yeah, that's going to be fun. We look forward to hosting you guys back next week. We'll have some more cool improvements to the stream. I think the heart rate monitor was a good hit. We're going to have to look at the rates from that. I didn't even see. Did you guys notice what my peak heart rate was throughout this? Something in the 120s, maybe?
Yeah, 121 is the peak that I saw.
All right. Well, somewhat of a workout for me. I mean, I'm still a bit warm in here. I need to drink some water. But yeah, this was a fun one. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button, drop us a comment, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future streams. And if you want, hit the notification button also so that you can stay tuned with everything we got going on. But there's a lot of cool stuff coming in the future. I think Shane's going to be back in town, so we might have him involved with this in future weeks. That'll be really fun. And a lot of other cool stuff coming your way. So